Support WrestleTalk!
Give us a subscribe.
Hello and welcome to Fantasy Booking Warfare. You have clicked on to my booking of Brock Lesnar losing the Universal Championship. Finally, some of you might be saying, both finally for Brock and finally for us actually doing this video. Ollie's video for this has already gone live. We're going to link to it at the end of this video if you have clicked it first. Also click the poll above our heads to vote. Watch both videos and then vote. Watch both, vote, be fair in your voting. But for now, here is my pitch. So here is my pitch document for Brock Lesnar losing the Universal Championship. Now, I don't have a huge amount of confidence in this booking, I'll be honest with you, but here we go. My main aims for this was to create a new star, was to make sure that we get the belt off of Brock, obviously, but also try to... Because I feel that the Universal Championship has lost a lot of its luster. It hasn't really meant a whole deal, so I'm trying to find a way to make it seem like an important thing again. So that's the aim of my booking. Okay? So, here we go. Brock Lesnar losing the Universal Championship. So in my reality, because we actually started... It's been so long, we actually started scripting these before Money in the Bank, so mine kind of takes place really in that world, and in my version of events... Samoa Joe won the Money in the Bank, but we're still doing the Dolph beat Seth to win the Intercontinental Championship. Okay, so Raw Week 1. Kurt Angle comes out and says that Brock Lesnar has not been on Raw or pay-per-view since the greatest Royal Rumble, which was quite some time ago. And he's had a meeting with WWE management about what to do with the Universal Championship. He brings up the 30-day rule and points out that doesn't really apply to Brock. He says that he has asked Paul Heyman and Lesnar to meet with him next week live on Raw so they can move forward on a business and professional level. The following week, Angle comes out, but he doesn't look too happy. He says, look, I've got to be upfront and honest. Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar said they would be here, but they haven't shown up. He announces that at Extreme Rules, Brock Lesnar will defend the Universal Championship against Roman Reigns as Reigns beat Jinder Mahal at the Money in the Bank, and points out that Roman did technically beat Brock at the Greatest Royal Rumble. So he does deserve another title shot. So they continue to build this match, with Roman always asking Kurt if Brock's going to show up in the weeks leading up to Extreme Rules. And on the final episode of Raw before Extreme Rules, there's supposed to be a contract signing, like a backstage contract signing, similar to that AJ and Shinsuke Nakamura one. And again, Lesnar doesn't show to that. Angle promises Roman that he will be at Extreme Rules. So we get to Extreme Rules. Roman comes out, again to massive boos, as is a custom at this time, and he's in the ring waiting. But Lesnar's music doesn't hit. And in fact, no music hits. And Kurt Angle just walks down to the ring, and he looks a bit sad and a little bit annoyed. And he walks in and he tells Roman, completely off mic, they just sort of pick it up on the microphones on the camera, that Brock isn't here. And Roman looks pissed off, and he throws his hands up in the air and walks to the back. Angle walks over to JoJo and whispers in her ear, and then he walks to the back as well. There's no official announcement that's made. The commentators just sound confused, and the camera's chased backstage, and we see Roman talking with Vince in Gorilla, and he just looks annoyed, and Vince tries to calm him down, but Roman storms off. The next match starts. No championship match takes place. So we come to the following Raw after Extreme Rules. Angle comes out and says that he wasn't able to officially sign a contract with Brock Lesnar for Extreme Rules. He just thought, I thought I could take Brock at his word. He said that Heyman wouldn't return his calls, and he didn't send back the contract that Angle had FedExed to him. And Roman comes out looking all pissed off, and he asks, why is Brock being protected like this? Doesn't this company have a 30-day period where the champion has to defend his belt? Whatever happened to that? Angle says that he can't really talk about this right now, and Roman demands that he does. Angle is about to talk about a contract, but Drew McIntyre's music hits. He and Dolph walk down to the ring, and they grab a microphone. Drew says that Roman is just like Angle. He's just like Vince, and he's just like everyone in that locker room. He's soft. He calls the company soft for allowing Brock to walk all over them. He says that Angle is soft for not stopping it, and he calls Roman soft for not doing anything about it. And he says, now if it were me who was handed opportunity after opportunity like a certain big lapdog, and that Roman hears that line, and he goes to attack, boom, super kick out of nowhere. Dolph lays him out, and Roman's sort of like in the corner, selling the attack. And Drew says, as I was saying before I was rudely interrupted, if it were me who was handed opportunity after opportunity, we'd already have a Universal Champion who's here each and every week. And if it were me who was told he'd be getting a title shot and it didn't happen, well, I would go to the back and I would throttle Vince McMahon until he made it happen. While Drew is cutting this promo, Roman gets back up and he takes out Dolph, and then he goes after Drew and they have this big old pull-apart brawl. Later in the night, Angle announces that Drew and Roman are going to have a match at SummerSlam to determine a new number one contender. And at SummerSlam, Drew beats Roman to become the new number one contender to the Universal Championship. So we're now on Raw after SummerSlam. Drew comes down to the ring and he asks Angle, so when's Lesnar coming? Like, when's he going to be here? I've got my title. I've got my new number one contendership. When am I facing Brock? And Angle says, look, I've spoken to Stephanie McMahon, and the truth is, I don't know. I don't know. Brock and Heyman say that they do know, and they are going to be here next week, and they're going to tell us when that's going to happen. So the following week, Drew and Dolph come out, and they wait for Brock. Brock's not here, man. Angle comes down again, looking solemn, and Drew just looks at him and goes, don't tell me he's not here. And Angle's like, he's about to start saying something, and he's been calling and texting, and Drew just cuts him off and says, I don't want to hear your excuses. I want to hear Vince McMahon's excuses. And Angle says, look, Angle says that Vince can't come out and starts to stammer over his words. I've written in brackets, that should be easy. And, I just did it myself. And Drew says, you know what, fine, have it your way. And he and Dolph go and sit, they go and grab chairs and they sit at ringside. Commentators aren't really sure what they're doing. Angle exits the ring, looking a bit confused, and he heads to the back. Next match starts. It's No Way Jose versus Bobby Roode, or whoever you want. You could throw Kurt Hawkins if you fancied it. And as soon as the bell rings, Drew and Dolph just rush in and start beating down both men, call for a DQ. They leave the ring and just get back into their seats. Angle comes out, off mic, screaming, what the hell are you doing? What are you guys doing? Vince then comes out. No music, no chance. It's just Vince McMahon. He comes down to the ring. He gets in and he says, look, me and Drew, we got a lot of history, and I appreciate your frustrations, but the fact of the matter is Brock isn't here. Drew and Dolph get back into the ring and say, that isn't good enough. Vince says that he promises that Brock will be here next week. I promise you. Drew says that, this should be a good incentive to help along with that. Drops him with a headbutt. Not similar to KO's headbutt, but like that Drew McIntyre headbutt, which isn't as, it just feels more vicious rather than, concussing a 65-year-old man. So the next week, Drew comes out and he says that he has it on good authority that Brock is actually here tonight, and he calls him out. But it's not Brock. Brock doesn't come out. In fact, Gillberg comes out, and he's carrying the Universal Championship, or a version of the Universal Championship. Drew orders JoJo to announce that this is now a Universal Championship match. Drew has had enough. He's had enough of this. He's like, if Brock's not going to show, I'm going to make my own match. I'm going to win my own championship. Claymore, Drew wins. He declares himself the Universal Champion. And he and Dolph celebrate with their belts. Angle comes out and asks, what the hell are you doing? You can't just say that you're the champion now. You can't just walk around. Drew tells him that you need a champion around here, and no one had the balls to step up and make themselves champion. No one had the balls to step up and make this happen. Angle says, look, Brock is still the Universal Champion. Drew looks around and says, well, I don't see him, and I haven't seen him in quite some time. He pauses and then says, have you got any better ideas? And Angle doesn't really know what else to do. So for the next week and months, we see that Drew is taunting Brock and saying that I'm the true Universal Champion. I'm the guy around here. I'm defending this belt. He defends it on Raw each and every week in an open challenge format because he wants to establish himself as a champion that is always there and a champion that will defend his belt. Within a couple of weeks, he's already defended the title more than Brock has in the 400, 500 days that he's had it at this point. He even goes down to NXT to offer up an open challenge to see if anyone can fight him for the Universal Championship. He goes over to SmackDown. He doesn't care. He even defends it on house shows, and they show this on Raw. That he's defending the title on house shows, so try to build up those house show tickets for people to go see. The Universal Championship is actually being defended on house shows now. You can go and see this. And all the while, we keep getting these Twitter videos from Heyman sort of laughing at how absurd this all is. Like, you're not the real champion. He reminds everyone that Brock Lesnar is the true champion. Drew defends the title at Hell in a Cell against Kevin Owens and at TLC against Finn Balor each time he wins. He has now beaten everyone who has previously been the Universal Championship, which is what he brags about on Raw after TLC. He's like, I beat the man who was the previous Universal Champion, Gillberg, because that's who Brock Lesnar won it off of. I've beaten Balor. I've beaten Kevin Owens. There's no one left for me to beat. And whose music should hit but Goldberg. Goldberg comes out and he says, look, you didn't beat me. You beat some guy pretending to be me. And he brings up he beat Brock Lesnar in a matter of seconds at Survivor Series a couple of years ago. And he looks at his watch and says, by my calendar, Survivor Series is just around the corner. So what say you put your money where your mouth is and face me for your championship at Survivor Series, which they do in the main event of Survivor Series. Drew McIntyre pins Goldberg in just 40 seconds to retain his Universal Championship. In the Raw after Survivor Series, Drew comes out and says, look, I've beaten everyone now. I've beaten all there is to beat. I've even beaten all the previous Universal Champions. And he has his open challenge. Out comes, I've written, I don't know, Dash Wilder. And Dash comes out very quickly, Claymore, Drew wins. Drew's about to ask for another challenge to come out, and Brock's music hits. It's the first time we've heard Brock Lesnar's music since the Greatest Royal Rumble, and Brock comes out holding his Universal Championship. He gets in the ring, and both men hold up their titles. The match is set for Clash of Champions. Title versus title. Brock versus Drew, and at Clash of Champions, Drew wins and holds aloft both belts, declaring himself the undisputed champion. And the next night on Raw, it's announced that the Universal Championship has now been renamed to the WWE Undisputed Championship, and they get a new belt design that doesn't look as rubbish as the Universal one does.
So that was Luke's pitch for Brock Lesnar losing the Universal title. Click the I above our heads to cast your vote, but of course go and watch my video as well, which is available to watch on screen now or in the video description below. Click the links down there, watch both, and then you can vote on either video for which you think's the best, and we'll amalgamate all the scores at the end to decide the true winner. I've been Ollie Davis, that was Luke Owen's little Brock Lesnar pitch, and that was Fantasy Booking Warfare.